Kenyans have become used to hearing tales of grand corruption that occur with alarming regularity. But how much have we lost so far, and what has been the opportunity cost of the scourge? Adelaide Changole looks at the history of the vice in Kenya and brings us the real cost of corruption to the nation.
Corruption, dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. This has become a thorn in the flesh of Kenya since independence, and the figures involved in the ensuing mega scandals have risen exponentially since 1963.
But corruption in Kenya is not in millions anymore, it's in billions of shillings. And when you convert them into dollars, it's hundreds of millions of dollars, which is huge sums. So the cumulative effect is actually very, very big sums of money.
The scandals have come in all shapes and sizes. Among the earliest mega scandals came in the 1970s in the form of the Kenyan fertilizer plant, which cost taxpayers 5.1 billion shillings. Then came the Takwel hydroelectric power station that was built for 5 times the estimated costs and ended up operating below capacity. And then there was the Goldenberg scandal that is said to have cost Kenya 54 billion shillings, the equivalent of 10% of the country's GDP at the time. More recently, however, the country witnessed the Anglo-leasing scandal that cost taxpayers 62 billion shillings. But the combined numbers of all these scandals do not hold a candle to the most common and insidious form of corruption. According to reports from the Office of the Auditor General, the national government loses 30% of the national budget each year. In 2010, the then Finance Minister Uhuru Kenyatta quantified the loss at 300 billion shillings annually. This means the country has lost an eye-watering 4.5 trillion shillings since 2000, an equivalent of Kenya's economy today.
One of the things that's really surprising to me is that given the amount of documented corruption that's out there, it's a surprise the economy hasn't collapsed.
So what could the 4.5 trillion shillings lost to corruption over the years have done for Kenya? The answer is simple. It could have changed the reality for the country. For starters, it could fully finance the 2 trillion shilling LAPSSET project, the construction of both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the standard gauge railway, rehabilitate the Nairobi commuter rail project, and finance the Nairobi bypass project. On top of this, the state could build 1 level 5 referral hospital in each of the country's 290 constituencies and fully equip them. Each constituency would also get 20 new schools, and the state would be able to hire 140,000 teachers. And this would still leave the state with 337 billion shillings in change.
It means that every year we lose, well, we are unable to account for money that would actually educate everybody in Kenya who wishes to go to school. Leaving aside some change for construction of that. The human cost is real, before we even talk about what it could do for our infrastructure, before we even talk about what it could do for our public health services.
Instead of all this, however, the country is stuck in a rut with a high tax burden and a system that perpetuates the wastage of those taxpayer funds for the benefit of a few. And experts say the current state of affairs is untenable and unsustainable.
Corruption has a way of feeding itself into insecurity, feeding itself into hatred, feeding itself into bad politics, and before you know it, a country with a lot of potential like Kenya is just stagnant and basically kept at a low level of income for forever. My view is that should strengthen our resolve to say that we have an even lower appetite for corruption. And yes, it will not be cut to zero immediately, but that we make progress every single day.
Adelaide Changole, KTN.